I am the Namer, guardian of the names of power. Before your world even existed, my people were an ancient race. Now they are gone, and only I remain, keeper of my people's history. Across the endless tracts of space have I traveled, to return to the planet of my birth, Zoidstar. Though my people perished long ago, and their cities were buried by the shifting sands, the machines remain. It is these that have brought me here to perform the last act of the Zoidarian race, the giving of the names of power. When my race was young and had an interest in the affairs of the galaxy, they built the machines, mighty engines of destruction which gave the power of life and death over the other creatures in the galaxy. The Zoidarians turned their gaze outward and laid waste to 1,000 star systems with their machines, their Zoids. But ruling a galaxy was not enough for the Zoidarians. It was not the conquests, but the battles they enjoyed. And though all intelligent life trembled in the shadow of the Zoids, my people battled on, machine against machine, Zoidarian against Zoidarian, in the further pursuit of glory. Zoidarian lives were needlessly sacrificed to the god of battle, and the race dwindled in numbers until the elders outlawed the Zoid duels. But they couldn't outlaw the Zoidarian love of combat. The Zoidarian pilots of the giant war machines were replaced by androids, and thus the heroic combat could continue without threat to Zoidarian life. Too late came the order. Too late to save a once mighty race from extinction, and now only I remain. Only I and the Zoids. And though my people created the Zoids, I have no power to control them. For the war machines have become the living embodiment of the Zoidarian thirst for combat, with lives and wills of their own. They exist only to fight, to ensure that their heroic combat lasts for all eternity. Now I stand on the sand-blasted surface of a world I used to call home, high on a rock, scanning the horizon for some sign of movement, knowing that out there, behind the sand clouds, lurk the deadliest war machines in the universe. It begins!
Brontozoid war machine built from steel, Hellenic Republic military wheel, pilot controlled weapon of destruction, Hidocker the dinosaur reconstruction. Heavy infantry transport built for war, Hidocker armed with guns of heavy bore. Regeneration power, his best feat. Ancient Brontosaurus won't retreat. Hidocker is a Zoid dinosaur. Brontosaurus steel beast roar. Core machine cannon fire on core. Hidocker, Republic infantry raw. Central continent seized, but new foes come. Dark Zoidians on Dark Zoids power drum. Crush the alien invaders with force. Hellenic Republic, Hidocker discourse. Dark Zoidians vanish, but more foes rise. Zenibus Empire covered with evil eyes. Hidockers will march to meet them right away. Republic Brontosaurus Zoids ray. Hidocker is a Zoid dinosaur. Brontosaurus steel beast roar. Core machine cannon fire on core. without end. Hidocker regeneration will mend. Empire Zoids are strong, but so are ours too. Continue the good fight, Hidocker true. Hidocker! Ancient comets like dinosaur. Brontozoid steel beat roar. Color machine cannon fire on core. Hidocker! Republic infantry raw. Hidocker! Ancient comets like dinosaur. Right Docker! Brontozoid steel beat roar. Color machine cannon fire on core. Hidocker! Republic infantry raw.
This is a creature of brute power. Its own strength is protection enough from most enemies. It carries no sensitive scanning equipment. It has no need for caution. I speak the name of power.
You are Brontozoid, a war machine of steel. Forged by zoidery and hand power unreal. Galactic conquest, your call and your right. Brontosaurus monster, machine zoid might. All the great guns to crush the ringing foes. Brontozoid fires laser guns and power shows. With long slender steel neck and tail to sweep. Metallic dinosaur Brontozoid we keep. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, your laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard. Brontozoid, cyborg dinosaur on guard. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard. Brontozoid, cyborg dinosaur on guard. Zoidarians abandon war for sport. Heroic combat on planet Zoidstar court. Zoid against Zoid in deadly rival fight. But comes Zoidarian downfall overnight. Planet Zoidstar now belongs to the Zoids. All masters gone, empire fallen in the voids. Brontozoid sees new menace from the moon. Dawn of the red Zoids comes, but yet too soon. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, your laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard. Brontozoid, cyborg dinosaur on guard. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard. Brontozoid, cyborg dinosaur on guard. Yeah. Native Zoids must now unite to survive. Lucardian Zoid army now must thrive. Brontozoid joins the cause to push them back. At mighty Zoid, Silla's command, Brontozoid attack. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, your laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard. Brontozoid, cyborg dinosaur on guard. Brontozoid, monster machine in black and gray. Brontozoid, your laser guns turn night to day. Brontozoid, stopping steel feet heavy and hard.
It is the never-ending battle between red and blue Zoids. It has been waged for centuries. It rages still, with no end in sight.
I, the Namer, Last of the Zoidarians, guardian of the names of power, keeper of the legend of heroic combat, have spoken.